rise up with me today. Lift up your voice and boldly say, we are the ones we've been waiting for. If the dream of your highest calling be the hope of a new day dawning, we're the ones who can make a difference. Let's stand together. Share your gifts with the world that's waiting for a change that we're all creating. It's a moment for our greatness. Let's stand together now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to AGNT Speaks. It is a delight to gather with you together in consciousness today. So thank you for keeping this divine appointment. If you're here for the first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are glad that you found us and you found this weekly broadcast. It is a true delight to get to have deep, meaningful spiritual conversations, applying spiritual tools and spiritual principles to our everyday lives. You can find these broadcasts on YouTube later on, and they are always available on our AGNT Facebook page on social media. So you can share them if you enjoyed a broadcast, and you can find those podcasts later as well. So we are here as your AGNT Leadership Council. That is the Association for Global New Thought. If you appreciate these offerings that we have, you can become a part of the AGNT community. You can give yourself a Christmas present of a $50 contribution every year to become part of the sustaining membership that is AGNT. We are led by the Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith, and great news for everyone here with us today. He is here with us today. So I know you're going to be delighted about that. So I'll give you a minute here to just spread the word, share the word, text your family, friends, your spiritual community. You can invite them to view us and experience this conversation today on social media at the AGNT Facebook page. So every week we have a different leader from AGNT or friends of AGNT, and we have a spiritual conversation. There is never a lack in things to talk about as far as applying spiritual principles for everyday growth and mindfulness. But it is a true delight to welcome a mentor of mine, my colleague, and the leader of AGNT, who is also the founder of Agape International and an incredible speaker, author, I would say movie star as well. I think that could be added in there. He is known throughout the world. He supports individuals on their soul journey throughout our world. And it is just an honor always to have time with you, Reverend Michael Beckwith. So thank you for being here today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, but movie star, how did that get on my resume?
I know I've seen you pop up in a lot of these films. We have a summer film series every year, and I keep seeing your face pop up.
I did receive, okay, you mean like spiritual movies? Okay.
Yeah.
I did receive an award a couple of years ago from a film festival, because as a spiritual leader, I've been in more spiritual movies than any spiritual leader in history.
Oh
and
my!
I had no idea. They checked on the IDM. I was #1. I forgot where Deepak was, but it was like, I said, me? It was just a big shock. So they gave me this award for lending my presence to these teachings in a powerful way.
That's pretty cool.
But I will tell you this: I have been in a couple of other movies.
Have you?
Yeah, I was in one movie called it was with Queen Latifah and Common, and the director of the movie called me and said, I'm having some issues with the suits from the studio. Can I fly you down here just to have your presence? I think if they see you, they'll act right. And I said, you're gonna fly me to New York? She said, yes, okay.
Absolutely.
So I fly in, the people see me talking to the director. They become very friendly with her. They know who I am. And it happened like in about 10 minutes. So she said, well, while you're here, let me just put you in the movie. So I'm in a couple of scenes in the movie. It's called Just Right. Me and John Legend are sitting up in the stands watching the basketball game. And, it was so fun.
On my Christmas movie watch list. I'm going to put it in there. Just right. All right.
It's just a small little piece, but people always say, Did I see
I
you in
don't
Just
care.
Right?
I'm rubbing elbows. I'm rubbing elbows with the movie star right now.
So I thought that was funny. You said movie star. Wow.
Little did we know we'd be unpacking a secret today. So, so Barbara Fields, who is our amazing woman behind the scenes at AGNT, she is the scene, and she supports AGNT emerging. She had a question for us today, and I really like this question. She asked us to talk about, knowing that one, it's the season of Christmas, right? Christmas is right around the corner. Christmas in New Thought is a really deep practice around the Christ presence, and putting our attention on not only Jesus the Christ, who demonstrated so long ago and exists in spiritual form, but on the Christ presence that is available and accessible as each one of us. And so that conversation has to do with our evolution, our mindfulness, how we are evolving as spiritual beings. And specifically, she asked us, what characteristics have we noticed in ourselves specifically during these challenging times, during the pandemic, during what's happening as far as divisiveness, during what's happening in our social climate, everything within our families, the healthcare system. I mean, you name it, there have been interesting things to be present to, right? What have we noticed? And we're asking this of everyone participating with us today. What have you noticed in yourself that shows that you have evolved during these challenging times? How do you measure your own evolution? How do you check in on that? And what evidence do you have that you're actually shifting, transforming, evolving in this time? So what qualities, what characteristics, what experiences have shown you that you are shifting?
Yeah, I think this is a very important question. You brought up two things. One, the advent of the Christ consciousness, which is what we teach. We teach that the highest potential within us as a human being having a spiritual being having a human incarnation is the Christ, the birth of the Christ within us. So we take Jesus as the great exemplar, as an individual who unfolded to the point where he could say, when you see me, you see the presence of God that sent me. There was no sense of separation whatsoever. And then he goes on, of course, to tell us that greater things than these can you do. He was expecting us and encouraging us to continue to walk that same path and not get caught up in dogma, because he was an individual that challenged the religious paradigm of his day, stepped out of the status quo to absolutely proclaim that the kingdom of heaven was at hand now, the ground upon which we're standing is holy, the presence of God is within. So during this time, we celebrate that to a high degree. I like to say that when high tide comes and people are into this gift-giving kind of consciousness, this contemplation of celebration, whether it's Hanukkah, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Kwanzaa, that's high tide for us. We use this time to go even deeper into our spiritual practice. Yes. That everybody's put a pause on they put a pause on wars, they put a pause on so many things in the world. So in this time, we take the energy and ask, how can we go even further in our own unfoldment? So Jesus did ask the question, or he did say the statement, "You shall know them by their fruits." You shall know the individuals that are evolving and unfolding. There'll be certain fruitage, and that fruitage. One aspect of the fruitage is a kind of a non-reactivity. You find that as you expand your awareness, you react less to the world of phenomena. You don't deny it. You don't put your head in the hole and pretend it's not there. You don't sublimate your feelings or your emotions, but there's less reactivity and there's more response. And the response is coming from your willingness and ability to touch that realm of the eternal, the presence of God. So as you're touching in on a regular basis, you notice that when you go back into the world and you see all this stuff going on in the world, you're able to respond differently. So one fruit is response instead of reactivity. Mm-hmm. Now what does that response look like? Compassion. You find that there's a greater degree of compassion, and compassion is not syrupy. For instance, there's sympathy, there's empathy, and there's compassion. Sympathy says, I know how you feel. Empathy says, I'll feel for you. Compassion says, how can I serve to eliminate suffering? And so one such signpost is that we find ourselves having more compassionate moments. We can't go out and do everything for everybody, but we give ourselves permission to do what we can do in the sphere of our influence from a state of compassion. So those are two fruits that point us in the direction that we are evolving.
Yeah, absolutely. I know for me, I have noticed some big things. And, whenever I'm always like knock on wood when I talk about these things, because sometimes then there's just another opportunity to go, really? Did you have that? But I have recently, I'd say within the last few months, had every kind of reason to kind of like lose my mind and get frustrated and not be grounded and go into drama. And I just find myself being present in a different way. Like there's still the story, there's still the things happening. There's still, I don't like how this is showing up. I don't like how things are going down. But in my heart and in my being, it's like steady, like I can't be moved. I am
That's it.
not at a heart level. There's nothing going on. And they're like, you're talking about this, response and reactivity. It's like there's less time in the recovery phase because I'm not going there with my whole being. It's like there's this story in my mind. It's analytical. I can see it, but it didn't make marks in me.
Wow, that's a high state.
I'm shocked by it.
That's a high state. In other words, you're not lending yourself to drama necessarily. You're out of the drama without denying that there's something going on, which means for us, we have preferences, but we're not attached when the preferences aren't being met. The world isn't stealing our peace. It isn't stealing our joy, even though we don't prefer A, B, or C to be happening. Or we would prefer that this to happen this way. It doesn't steal our joy, and so you're talking about that, like that old spiritual song that talks about the fact that, like the tree, I shall not be moved. The tree planted by the river, I shall not be moved. Now that is big fruitage on the spiritual path. And in the beginning, I think that people need to be aware that as it begins to be birthed in you, sometimes you think something's wrong with you because you think, oh my God, I used to be so dramatic. I used to be, like running around with the chicken, my head cut off, and people may think, oh, you're acting so different. You don't care anymore. No, the caring is still there. It's just that it's not overlaid by this manic energy. It's more like you said. You can step back and you can say, I don't like that. How can I serve this being better right now? What is the best thing that I can do to make a difference, rather than I'm way off the pale and dramatic and upset and that's a big piece of fruit right there.
Such a big thing. Like the suffering is optional and the drama is optional and the excessive story making and storytelling is optional. I'm still really working on that because boy, do I have noticed incredible things about my story mind, and even gotten some support from some mentors that I think are just guided to say the right thing at the right time. And I had one who said, I texted her, here's my drama story, needs support. I'll check in with you later. And then I missed the next thing that came in a little bit later. And I reached out to a couple of other people that support me. And then the text that came through that I saw after said, don't share this or spread this or talk to anyone about it yet. Just sit with it until we talk. And at that moment, I was like, oh, wow. And then I just got to have this incredible meditation time of looking at what does Erin do when she feels XYZ, fill in the blank, when I feel this. And I got to see the entire circus that I create and just watch it and go, that's cool to know that. Now I know where my work is.
Yeah.
So, watching the mind, I think, is another thing during this, interesting time, pandemic time, to be able to watch the mind and watch all the stories it makes, not just in other people, but in ourselves. How often we, give reasons for things and kind of export the drama and the suffering onto someone else, or we attribute the problem and the issue or some imagined limitations on, from someone else.
Absolutely. What your mentor did for you is whatever text you saw come in, that's a spiritual practice. Like when there's something going down like that, you definitely do not share it with individuals that are going to co-sign the drama. You do not share it. If you're going to share it, it has to be with someone like you did, with somebody that's going to listen and say, we're going to take a different path. We're going to think differently. We're going to walk differently. We're going to act differently. But many people just share their dramas with anybody, and then the individual, out of love, co-signs it and amplifies it, so that by the time you finish talking to them, you're madder than you were before. You're more anxious than you were before because the drama has gotten bigger. Right. So you didn't share it. You don't share it except with somebody that's going to hold the confidence and then hold that field of possibility as to where we are to grow to. If you want your problem to get bigger, share it with everybody.
Right. And for me, I noticed, because I do have a small circle that I really trust of the people that I share with, and they are high consciousness holders. But for me, what I noticed, what I'm doing is, I guess the piece in me is that I'm actually like oozing a bit of my, I wouldn't call it pain, but whatever it is, like my story onto them to have partnership and holding it. And it's like in that instant, I realized I'm just like passing on suffering. I'm just passing on pain. Like, I just bring it back, bring it down. I don't need people to share this burden with. It's okay to talk. It's okay to share. It's okay to have the high watch holders that'll hold it. But also in me, there was something going like, oh, look at me and look how awful it is for me. Hold my hand, be in this ditch with me. And it's like, I'm doing this to the people I love most, and I'm actually anxiety sharing.
Yeah, that's
over empathy, anxiety sharing. And like, I was doing it excessively, and clearly it's a pattern. And it's just like, boy, to look at that and go, okay, I'm ready to graduate from that system in my mind.
Well, that's a good catch. And you said it all, and everybody should hear this. When you said you looked at your mind, you watched the mind do its thing. Because, we're not our minds, but the mind is either a set of programs that take us down all kinds of worst case scenarios, fears, doubts, worries, anxiousness, or the mind can be an avenue of awareness of that which is true and real and eternal. So when you said watch your mind, I mean, we don't want that statement to go by the wayside, because we want people to understand that they can actually look at their mind and they can actually say, where is that thought coming from? Where did that come from? But that's not me thinking that. That's a program. That's a habit. It's a mental habit, but it's not who I am. And based on the observer effect, whatever you observe changes on a subatomic level. So when you just watch the mind with an intention to unfold, then those thoughts begin to transmute themselves into higher frequency. So I don't want people to miss. You said that statement because you're in practice, so you watch the mind. But I want everybody to catch that is practice. You watch it. Ooh, do I want to experience that?
That's right.
No, I don't want to experience that. Let me watch that so that it doesn't gain power and become an emotion, an attitude, a mood that becomes cyclical.
Yes.
We have the power to do that.
And everything is so rich, especially in times like these, when you engage in that practice. Like another thing that I've noticed in myself and a lot of people is a building up of self-trust, kind of self-confidence, not in a way that a lot of people would think, not like not that you think of yourself as having confidence issues or something like this, but when we're in times with, one, a lot of misinformation, two, a lot of different information that, everywhere everyone's saying they know and they're the expert, and then everyone's saying that no one's right and there's all this other stuff going on. People really have to learn to trust themselves and stand in their own intuition, create their own guidelines. So it's like, what are you doing for yourself? Do you feel like you need to wear a mask? And are you willing to stand in that even if no one around you is? Do you feel like you don't need to adhere to some protocols, whatever it is, but like listening to your heart? Do you feel like you need to be doing something with your immune system to boost it up? Do you feel like you need to be following this or that protocol? And what does that feel like in the midst of, like, we know when people are young, they feel peer pressure and things feel awkward and all of that, but adults go through it too. And adults can watch themselves not follow their own intuition because of who they're with at the time, or what the circumstances are, or the CDC says this now, the CDC says that now. I'm always amazed at how quickly Jackson County guidelines say this. Everybody's got masks on Thursday. Jackson County guidelines say this. No one has masks on Friday. It's like, where is the deciding point in here rather than just following? And so I think this is a time of people being able to watch your own mind, watch your discomfort, watch your intuition, build that up, look at even the crazy thoughts in our own mind that are, whatever.
You're speaking the truth. I try to teach people basically to learn how to connect with your soul. You're not going to get misguidance when you're connected on a soul level to the presence. Now, you're talking about spiritual empowerment. You're talking about spiritual growth and unfoldment. And it just so happens that so many people don't do that. They export their wisdom and guidance onto personalities outside themselves, actors and news commentators and reporters and politicians, even ministers. And every good minister, particularly in New Thought, is telling you that the answer is within yourself.
Right.
I had an opportunity to speak at the Milken Institute conference this year, and they wanted to bring in some spiritual consciousness into this, this highly charged business progressive situation. And I had an opportunity to, I know Van Jones. I had an opportunity to be with him and be in a private meeting with him. And he said something very fascinating. He said, listen, don't look at the news for truth. He says, I work for CNN. He says, we have a narrative we have to share from. Fox has a narrative they have to share from. MSNBC has a narrative. See, we all have our narratives. And if I go outside of that narrative to tell you something, I'm going to get in trouble. So he said, so don't look at that as newsworthy because we're all sharing narratives. He said, if you want to, find the truth, you got to go within yourself, or you got to find a podcast of somebody that's not being paid by.
Nobody can take down that they're not sponsored by anyone, and they have themselves secure in a pod hanging over Mars somewhere.
Somewhere. But the fact that he was so honest, and he works for CNN to say, hey, this is a job. I have to speak within the narrative. When I do my own podcast, I'll be more free to share some things.
Right.
But he was letting us know, as what you're saying, don't export your wisdom and guidance to those people out there. You really, if you really, 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 really pray affirmatively, you really, 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 really meditate, there comes a moment where you get guidance in a language and in a way that you can understand. And every time you follow that guidance, the ability to hear it becomes easier. When you don't follow it, you say, oh, my first mind told me to do that. I should have done it. But when you do it, then it becomes easier and easier and easier until you're actually living from your intuition, your direct knowing, your connection with the soul. But it takes practice. It's not like, it takes a level of practice.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, Michael, thank you so much for being here today. And gosh, I am so grateful that you are in my life. And I'm so grateful that we get to do this, that this is our playground together. And being that it's the close of this year and the Christmas time, I just have a warm fuzzy for all of our AGNT people people out there and for our amazing leadership council and all the work that we do together.
Yeah, I love us all. I love you, Erin. I love us all. I love your kid.
Yeah. Oh, I had
Her kid belongs to everybody. She belongs to all of us.
I had some beautiful photos that just came up recently of the two of you together at one of our meetings, and
Yeah,
I'll text you some new pictures. She's a big girl.
We got an update.
Yeah.
But during this time, yesterday obviously was the solstice, the official beginning of winter, and obviously the nights are longer, the days are shorter. But this is a time in which it's a time of deep reflection. We use these longer nights and the shorter days to actually go in and create what is called a fruitful darkness.
Yes.
And in this fruitful darkness, we can actually ask now during winter, what is it that we can now let go of that doesn't serve us anymore? What doesn't serve us? What habits, what conversations, what points of view? And if we just ask, our soul would tell us. And then as we step into the new year, we can begin to plant seeds of what it is we really want to manifest in our life. But there has to be room for it. So we have to begin with letting go. And even though obviously we're in the spirit of gift giving, so we're sharing, we're giving things, and people are getting rid of stuff, as well. But what is it that we can let go of?
Yes, not giving our gunk anymore. That's on my list. Like, I'm not going to be giving my gunk away like I usually do. I'm going to give some gifts and not as much gunk.
And the gifts of heart, the gifts of love, the gifts of the soul, the gift of encouragement. The
gifts of our self-evolution. The gifts of our mindfulness and our self-evolution and checking in on that and watching our minds. That's one of the greatest gifts we can give to our greater community and to our loved ones and to our world. Thank you for this conversation today. And if you are a fan of New Thought and you don't have a spiritual center, you can find Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith Spiritual Center. If you go to Agape, you can search that and you can find him, and they live stream their services, and we do as well at Unity Village Chapel. And most New Thought centers, we have special services towards the end of the year and towards the beginning of the year. I know in Unity we have the Burning Bowl and we have a White Stone service in January, but no doubt you will have a service that is full of a ritual transformation practice. So I encourage you all to find a center near you or hop online with one of your AGNT leaders. And all of those are listed on our webpage at agnt.today. What a great day to be together. Thank you all for being here, and we'll see you next week.
Something great is happening. Love has taken hold and it won't let go of us now.
Something here is calling us forward, upward motion. With drops in one ocean, roll on.
Will you rise up with me today? Lift up your voice and boldly say, we are the ones we've been waiting for.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.